Hello, welcome to Install Ready, the power of productive planning. My name is Zinab.
And I'm Felipe.
A little introduction about ourselves. I work alongside Felipe at Walners. I'm a workplace design specialist. We both share an account, Z.Mortagy. I also work on accounts like Pepsi, IBM, Morgan Stanley, and alongside also day-to-day accounts. I'm originally from Perseid, Egypt. I've been in the US for over 32 years. I've been an interior designer for over 7 years. My past history has been in retail, management, pharmaceuticals, photography, and of course, everyone's favorite, customer service. I have also worked aside from dealer side of interior design. I've worked as a showroom manager and being a designer at the same time.
And again, my name is Felipe. I'm originally from Medellin, Colombia. I'm a graphic designer and interior designer. I have more than 17 years experience in the field, and as a designer, I have 20 years plus. I'm working currently at Walners as a creative lead design for major accounts and join one of the biggest accounts with Zinab. And we are very happy to be here sharing all this piece of information that might help you to improve all your systems and productivity.
So today we will be covering elevating your templates, callouts, electrical callouts, and what to do when dimensioning. Elevating your templates. We're not going to really show you how to set up a template per se. We're going to show you how to set it up in the sense of creating one for your annuity accounts where you can just jump in, grab your favorites, grab everything's there, and cut your work time from maybe 8 to 10 hours to maybe 5 to 6, which sometimes that's not realistic, but we're trying to help you.
Here, as we can see, we talk about how you can elevate your templates. First of all, you need to identify how you want to work. You need to identify all the elements and tools that you might need to create a very effective and functional template. Like, for example, doing the settings or the styles, doing the templates that you need for the 2D view or for the paper view, and how you can maximize the productivity time when you are working on a project who's complex or small or any size.
We're going to discuss cover pages and paper. We'll get into CT in a moment to show how, but just your cover page should have your title block. It should have your company logo. It should have the customer's logo. For example, mine is for an approval package that we have our client sign off on every single time. We have a sign off area for them to date. We may have a disclaimer about our colors or our textures, just because we all know that one client, or we all have that one client that will go back and be like, well, that didn't look like the rendering.
Also, the first thing that you will work on is on the title block templates on the paper view. Here, for example, as you can see, we have different sizes. I create sizes from 8 by 11 to 36 by 48, and the 2 directions, landscape or portrait. You need to be mindful how you want to use those templates and how you can utilize all these tools. The other thing that I recommend a lot is to use the paper manager, because the paper manager is the easiest way, in my opinion, to move through the project or to the pages when you have more than 5 pages in your project. As you can see here also, I try to organize it. Now I'm showing you how, if you had organized your title blocks, it will be easy also for you to open those pages in paper, and that way you can also organize in an effective way, and marking up or naming the pages will be a big help as well.
So here's another setup of what your 2D should look like, or my 2D. So in here, to set up your paper, we're going to go to Tools, Project Info, and fill out this information. It may be little or not a lot of information. I'm here just putting in my project name, which is typically the location that I'm doing the project for this annuity account. That's as far as I will go, because Hedberg may cause issues. Otherwise, fill out as much as you can. I know sometimes CAP transfers this information great, and it may help out with directing the sales with this information. But filling out that information, I'll show you where it will show up. In paper, you want to go to Tools and then go to Data Field. I'm just going to put this over here on the side and kind of run through what Data Fields provides. So it provides paper grouping, description, label, page number, to set up your title block, which will make things so much smoother later on. It would provide project information. So here I'm going to go to mine, again, project information, since we filled it out in the project information window. It's already there for me, the information. Next, you could also do revisions. So next I'm going to fill out by who designed this. So I'm going to put in my initials for by number 1. And then when setting it up for my salesperson, their initials as number 2, by number 2. I'm then going to go on to my date, and I'm going to fill out my date. And then I'm going to go and fill out my description, what kind of revision it was, if it was issued for review, the first run around, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to then hit close. And the great thing about data fields is if you have your title pages and your pages all set up, it's going to be on every single page. You do not have to spend that time to go back in and refill that information. So that at least cuts 5 minutes from your project. It may not seem like a lot, but to do it for every revision, it's going to be a lot. So the next thing here I have, as you guys saw in my 2D, I had a grid line set up for my private offices, my workstations, my typicals. I have my pictures in here. I'm not going to insert a picture into the paper. I'm going to insert it from the 2D. That way it's captured every time I open up this PDF to start, this CET to start a new project. So nothing's going to be edited, and it's being saved as a template. So once you've created this template, this first rough draft, you're going to save it as a template to have all this information ready to go for every project, and you just rename it or do a save as. Here I'm showing column conditions, and we'll get into that later on. Here's conference rooms. Now, again, what I would do if the Buzzy space was different, I would go in and I would change that blue jeans Buzzy space to maybe the curry one, depending on which one my client wants to use in that particular time. But I have all of that information, again, in my 2D. It's easy, it's go, grab and go, and you're good to go. So here I'm just, CT decided to glitch on me. But if you zoom out, once it's zoomed out, you're going to see I have my Buzzy finishes. I have the accessories that I want to point out to the client. I want to point out everything that I can, so that way when they are signing off, they have everything. I have my elevations. I have my electrical legend. I have everything ready to go. So again, elevations, I'm going to grab and I'm going to name each elevation to help the installer know which wall it's going on. Plan view, not area view. And I'm going to label, if there's going to be a marker board, I'm going to label that there's a marker board on there on that elevation. And how I do all of that is by going back into the 2D. So I'm going to go back into the 2D. I'm going to put in a text box. Whether I'm doing the connect track or whether I'm doing the elevations, I'm going to put in a text box, and I'm going to fill out whatever information I want. Here I'm just going to type out connect track again. And I'm using color coding as well. So I'm selecting the box, I'm resizing it how I want, and then I'm going to adjust font size, play with the font whatever you want, however you want it. And then what I'm going to do is fill background and custom select the background color. I want it to be green because that's what I have indicated on my legend, that all the connect track is green. If I'm doing it for the elevation, I'm going to select the closest color for the elevation that I need. And I'm going to type in there whether, for example, mine is going to be a marker board. I'm going to say marker board and call it out what kind of marker board it is. And if it's a TV provided by the client, I'll put TV provided by the client. So here's a snip of how to do the data fields. Now here's the caveat about data fields. Data fields are currently, for the revision section of it, the revision history section of it, there is a glitch in CT, and I've notified them and they've been working on it diligently, and hopefully we have a solution soon. Going on to finishes. So as I showed, you want to have your finishes set up for each typical. There may be one-off typicals where you're going to have to redo this finish line selection in 2D, but having it there initially is going to make it an easier process to do the rest. Same thing with the accessories. There may be a one-off for the accessories, but in general, all my typicals have the same, so I have everything ready to go. Color coding for whether it's electrical dimensioning and for the plan view is very important. We'll go into the electrical portion of it later on in this presentation. And then elevation.
Now for the elevations, I know a lot of you hear like a less is more, which is true. I'm a big fan of being clear with information that we provide. That's why sometimes also depends on the application or the typical that I'm working on. I prefer not to provide too much information that people or will not read, or people we might not need, or people will might disregard because it's not concerning or relevant to the installation. Usually what I do is I provide 3 elevations of the typical. I provide elevation A, which can be the left or right side, B will be frontal, and C will be the other side. This will help at least the installers to identify all the elements and not make any mistakes when they have to do the installations. Now on the templates. I always say that the templates should speak by themselves and be like a self-explanatory, especially on our design department. We always try to work on drawings in that way that we don't have to repeat what we do. So in this case, for example, I will show the basic elements that I have. I had the title, identifying the typical. I have also the viewports on the paper that I've been using for the rest of the templates. I had elevations, I had the renderings, and I have some views that might be crucial for this type of project since it's very complex and it's very unique. Here, for example, as Zinab was mentioning before, I do also all the possible applications on the 2D. So in that way, that would be easier for me to identify what I'm placing and what I'm using per typical. Since this project was very repeated, it just was changing the handle or the direction of the desk. So basically, will be the same template for everything. Here also I had the accessories on the 2D with information, basic information that we need. I have also the under desk view showing how the accessories under the desk will be placed. And also here, for example, I want to show the accessories portion and all the title blocks, and we have it named as per the application and the typical. Again, I just want to show you the details that I have on the pages that might be relevant or repeating on the other pages. Now, also what I do basically with these templates is, as I mentioned before as well, and I'm very, very happy to share this, is to use the paper manager. That will help you to move forward with all the different templates in the project.
And if you notice how Felipe and I also had it in our previous video, we named our pages so it's easy grab and go later on. So here's another example of what you can have as a template. This is for a different account. This is how our client likes to see it. We call out what's in that private office, what kind of a typical that private office may be. Now, this could be a left-handed or a right-handed. I have a key plan that will illustrate where these private offices are going for the installers, so on and so forth.
Now, the fun part is when you're working with the standards. Here, as you can see, I was showing what is the basic elements that I'm having on this project. I had the plan view in the area of work that I will be working. I'm identifying every possible symbol or application that I'm using. Also, I had the space for my finishes. I had some typicals for the renderings that I'm using on some pages, and the information for the title block as well. Also, this is the way how we maximize the time is saving and filing all the files that we need in the right way, in a very organized way, the way that you can remember where is everything. I always used to name all the folders and be more clear with the folder path where the folder is located and what I have. As you can see here, I have folders for everything. Here I had the different renderings that I'm using for the different templates and the different finishes as well. Here I had this application which are the L desk that we use for very specific rooms, and also I create like a little master cheat sheet where I can have all the different sizes with the Grommets locations. Also, I have all the standards that I use in the projects, the crucial parts that I will be using over and over. On this portion, for example, I'm identifying that everything and all the components are in the right place. That will be before when I print out the final PDF. Again, the paper manager is a big help, and that's what I'm using, naming everything. Here, as you can see, I have the details. These drawings, as I said before, when we create the drawings, we create the drawings in that way that we can use the same drawings for approval or for installation with the details that the installers may need. For example, in this situation, for example, we are indicating which panels will be new, all the details with the specials that we have in the application. This works perfectly fine for unique projects when you have very, very special conditions or you had unique designs. Here, you can see the final printout. This is the PDF. As you can see, the PDF is reflecting everything that I have on the CET file. This is the different typicals that I have. This is the different detailed pages that we have. It's basically the same that I showed before on the CET file. As you notice, one of my favorite parts is the details. I always like to provide details. I don't want installers or my sales team saying why we don't have this here. Now, to accomplish that, you need really to build and customize your template. This is one of my projects as well. So here we have almost everything that we need on the applications. We have, for example, all the details. This is the plan view, the components, the overall. This is my electrical. This is my workstations detail page. As you can see, I had the plan views, I had elevations, I had renderings, and I had the same items that I was showing before with the details for the accessories or for the power placement, because that's the other thing that installers for sure we appreciated when they had to install this kind of projects. Also, I had information on the title blocks using the beautiful data field that Zinab was explaining before, and it works perfectly fine. I know that looks like it's a lot of time, a lot of time consuming for the beginning, but let me tell you something. I always see it as an investment. You can spend, let's say, 2-3 hours setting up everything, but after that, when you start developing the project and you start creating drawings, you will see how easy and how fun can be because you don't have to struggling just building pages. The other thing, as Asina mentioned, for example, before, sometimes when we are at ACT or we change computers, sometimes the viewports or the settings for the paper change drastically, and basically you end up redoing everything. Here you can see the different applications and rooms. And again, as you can see with the paper manager, everything is matching with the information that we have. Components to components overalls. Here is the other option, the engineering, the special soil engineering quotes that we have for this application. Here, this is the part of the package for my installation drawings. Since some of the installation companies like to be very detailed about what they're doing, so this is what I'm doing here. I'm providing the information with engineering quote that they will be able to follow on the installation sheet when they have more than one part or different directions. Since this is overhead, this unit was totally completely special. It was more easy for them to identify which one was the left, which one was the right, and what was integrated on that special. Now, inside of the save and organize the templates. This is very, very, very important and crucial. The way how you track every single project, the way how you organize. Here, we had the basic folders that we use for our projects. We had the basic folder, the 18 approvals, install progress report, CET, and renders. On the receive folder, I always like to say the receive folder of files in the way how I got it. Who sent it to me, when, and what is inside the folder. This is the way to organize and maximize when you're looking for information. Here, for example, I'm showing you, this is for my approval, the stamp drawing, which is very important. Installation drawings. Also, we had the site visit reports because sometimes you got these things by email, but they will be sitting forever in your inbox. So that's how I decide to say everything with the possible details that I need for my projects. Here we had the folders for the audits. Obviously, this has not been audited yet. Here is the CT. Everything is saved by days. by revisions and who was working on the project. And here is the PDF folder with the same way that we say the C did and some renderings that we might be using for the project. Also, this project was linked to the status report. Since this is a very huge project and it's a couple of designers working on the project and a couple of different account managers, so this is the way how we track everything. This is the way how we show what we receive, what is the status, and where we are with the project origin. This is just the basic information that we use on our design department, but every department, since operations, sales, project managers, account managers, administrators use a different report. So this is the report that we use to track our internal projects from the design point of view. Also, the benefit of this tracker is I have it created in the way that I can sort information. If I just want to see basic information like how many designers were working, what designer was working in the project, I can just do the sort filtering the information. So again, this is the way how organizing you 2D will help you to maximize all the time of production with the paper and the final installation drawings.
Okay, electrical callouts. So we all have those installers that want to see the bottom of the installation or maybe a detailed inside of the electrical plan. So in doing so, we're going to double click on the floor, or in order to get the floor properties, we can click floor properties and hit show floor. And then we're going to select our component that we really want to render. I'm going to here explode the block. And then I'm going to explode another block within that block. I'm going to take my height adjustable and explode that. Now we all have those problems with CET. Then we're going to go to our photo lab to render these images. Now in my photo lab, I'm going to position the drawing how I want. I'm going to put product lighting. I'm going to play with all the settings that I want to play with. Again, positioning is key on how you want to do this. And now we can see the underneath. So after positioning it, we're going to go to view mode and we're going to go and click on electrical. And clicking on electrical is going to give me the interior of the panels. No panel skins, no desktops, no nothing. We're going to have just the interior electrical. That way I can later on in the editing process just make red lines and show where my basin feed is coming from, where my power pole is coming from, if I'm going to have a jumper cable somewhere, if there is receptacles on the upper portion of the panel, so on and so forth. And then after that, after it renders, this is what you get. Now this, I'm going to crop it, play with the lighting how I want, and save it. I'm then going to copy a new one. And then I'm going to go back to that view mode and hit normal again. Now you can do this also just showing your panel skins without any furniture by selecting whatever view mode you want, or if you set up a view mode of your own, you can save it and select. Now, in order to do the underneath view, it's going to be a little finicky and you're going to have the patience for it. Now, I found the block that I have exploded to show the details. I'm then going to adjust it to how I want, the view I want. And then I'm going to go over to the ghosting. And select ghosts. And select make sure you don't select your panels. Select the item that you want, whether it's I want to select the height adjustable. If I had selected the block height adjustable, it would select all the components within. You can select multiple ghosting if you want, and then render. Now, when it renders, it's going to come up as you deleted or erased that height adjustable. There is a way to show it as a ghosting. I'm sure we've all used it. Once it pops up, I'm going to go to the right side. There it is. My leg is missing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the right side. I'm going to select the ghost. And I like to put it at 20%. Make sure that box is clicked. And now you can see that my base is ghosted, but at least it blocks it out for the installers to see what else is under for electrical. Now, some of the examples, as I was saying, for the internal view of the electric for the panels is we have that a certain line is going to run, which is in the red for those stations, and then the other line and base and feed is going to run for the green stations, and that's what's powering each. Here's a great picture of the underview. I'm showing and giving details of the installation for the installer, especially if the client and the salesperson is very picky. They want to call it out that it's a 30-inch basket, that it's being centered underneath the height adjustable desk. All of this stuff is important to a lot of clients and most installers. So as Felipe has mentioned before, having all those details will help facilitate those installations faster, and that way you don't get that call, what are we doing? Now, electrical callouts. I have power distribution layout. I have, as I showed before with the color coding legend, I have where my power by my column is coming out. And that's where my renderings came into view of, I called out each column and I numbered it, and I numbered each rendering according to the column to show them where this is coming from. I have my blue dots as my power poles, where the power pole is coming from, where their dimension is, where my break is coming from, power break is coming from, especially if I have two sources of power and feeds. Again, color coding, as I've mentioned, will come into play, and as I've shown earlier, with like for Connect Track, or whether it's Thread or another product that you may use, and even for getting pricing from Connect Track or from getting pricing from any other developer or manufacturer that you're using, this helps them saying, hey, this is where your product is going, and this is how big it is, how deep I want it, so on and so forth, because you're the one determining where your feeds are coming in for the tables.
Now, this is my favorite part. What to do when you're dimensioning, ironically, should be one not to do when you are dimensioning. As you can see, this is a perfect example of what not to do. This is a lot of information when really what they need to do is just to place the core for the location for the table, and we have been ending having information from everybody, for engineering, for electricals, for furniture, which is not really the best way to do it. As you can see here, is a lot of information, is overlapping, and it's not really clean in my opinion.
So, what to do when dimensioning? So, for example, going into here and we want to hide information. We want to hide those grid lines. We want to hide those pick lists. We're going to select the item we want to hide and we're going to hide in print. And then we're going to, when we go into paper space, it will hide that information in print. So here you can see that it's no longer there. So when my information, my calculation is going to be grabbed, but the client is not going to see that. The installer is not going to see something that they don't need. You can see here again, this is another example where I hid the pick list already. If I want to show it back into print, I just right click and I hit show in print.
Going back to what to do when dimensioning. This is my tips and tricks. First, be sure that always you use the center line for clarify where the dimension should start. As you know, some tables or some items of furniture on the rooms are not really just on the center line of the room, depends on the room conditions, construction, etc. But always be sure that you have to center lines, because sometimes depends on a lot of people how you want to do the dimensioning for electrical or drills or furniture. Depends on the project manager, depends on the sales team, depends on having a clear orientation how you want to present. In this case, for example, my request was to keep the dimensions and the same orientation of the lines or the directions, but some people like the orientation of the testing and the dimensions in the same direction, meaning or vertical or horizontal. Also, what I always do is I highlight the dimension in question, the dimension that is required for that exact placement.
So to walk through what Felipe just said, we are going to select the dimension. And then you can have different views of this dimension. Text only, dimension only, text and dimension on separate lines. So here I'm going to put in my information. I'm going to put in dim. And then it's going to appear, the text is going to appear on a separate line. And then I can add an additional line if I wanted to, or additional notes so it's not so long. I'm also going to hit rotate text. In doing so, it helps clarify if it's a placement, if it's a core, if it's whatever those dimensions need to be, it helps identify them for the installer. Then I'm going to select multiple dimension lines at the same time, even if they are chain dimensions. Now, the ones I'm selecting are my cores. So I'm going in here. I've already typed out that they're my cores. I'm going to make my text red so that they are known for electrical. And then I'm going to select highlight text. And I'm going to select whatever color you want. I go with red and yellow. Same thing with chain dimensions. Now, having the two different colors of dimensions on here may look childish, but it helps that this is my placement, this is not my core, or this is where my electrical is coming in, this is not my core, this is what the electrician needs to pay attention to. This is what the installer's assistant needs to pay attention to. Okay, so here's an example of highlighted. Now Felipe did this design pretty cool because he had to follow a certain condition from the client.
Yeah, in this typical case, the client don't want to do the center lines based on the room like he have it on the other areas. They want to place the table center based on the lighting and the features that they have at the ceiling reflecting, and it was not center. It was purpose of the design because, as you can see, they have here like a soffit on the ceiling. They had the columns and they had the lighting, which they want to keep in the center of the table. Now, I just want to make a little disclaimer here. You know, everybody works in a different ways. We're not saying that this is the right or the wrong way to do it. What we're saying is this is the way how it's clear for this particular client and project. So use your own judgment to make it look pretty and clear.
Again, this is just highlighting how to do the text and the rotating of the dimensions.